Greetings. We are the representatives of Sirius on Earth. Today we told you about our tasks at the galactic level, and in this we want to tell you about the ancient history of the Earth and the processes that we carry out on your planet. We already told you that the subtle energies coming from the central ring of the galaxy began to spread more and more actively, as many civilizations came to a certain level of development. At some point, the vibrations in which the collective consciousness of different civilizations existed began to resonate with each other. All this testified to the readiness of the galaxy to move to a new stage of development, at which the consciousness of all the creatures living in it should become one. For this, the teachers launched the so-called unification process, the task of which is the unification of all civilizations. Of course, first the changes must pass at the level of each civilization separately. Many civilizations known to you, such as Alpha Centauri, Pleiadians and Arcturians, have already carried out such an internal transformation, which consists in the transition of consciousness from the third to the fifth level. At the fifth level of consciousness, the vibrations in which representatives of civilization exist, increase so much that they can deeply understand each other without words, at the level of thoughts and feelings. The stage of transition to the fifth level is, of course, very important and valuable, but in order for the unification of consciousness to occur at the level of the entire galaxy, the vibrations must be much higher and correspond to the seventh level. At the same time, the entire galaxy completes the cycle of its development, and all the creatures living in it, having realized their tasks in the best way, become teachers for other worlds of the universe. Such a global and powerful transition awaits us all someday. After all, each of you, incarnating again and again in different parts of the galaxy, gains experience precisely in order to later become a teacher, a source of wisdom, love and support for those who will only begin their journey. In order for the entire galaxy to move to a new level of consciousness, it is not enough just to increase the intensity of subtle energies, you need to increase the frequency of vibration, which can only increase due to energy resonance between representatives of different civilizations. In order to support the relationship, the Galactic Council was created, which included representatives of all civilizations, but at some point he faced a very big problem. The fact is that each civilization develops according to its own unique plan and has its own tasks. That is why, each of them exists at its own special frequencies, and the world of each civilization is almost a separate space with its own physical laws. For example, in order for representatives of Alpha Centauri to begin to physically communicate with the Pleiadians, they need to overcome the energy barrier, a kind of border that arises from the mismatch of the features of their worlds. Therefore, such direct communication is very limited, and occurs only for experimental purposes. Those civilizations that exist on the fourth or fifth level of consciousness can communicate with each other at the level of holograms and thought forms, and thus exchange experience with each other. But this interaction has many limitations, because the ideas and images that we transmit to each other are easily distorted due to differences in perception. In addition, it is much more difficult to communicate if communication occurs between representatives of different levels of consciousness, because then the energy barrier is strengthened by orders of magnitude. And if we begin to communicate with the owners of three-dimensional consciousness, then the barrier becomes an almost insurmountable wall. Such limited communication cannot give a full understanding of each other and vice versa, it can create conflicts due to distortions. The Galactic Council, noting this complexity, turned to the Supreme Spiritual Teachers for support. A General Council was assembled at which it was decided to create a separate world at the level of the third level of consciousness, in which representatives of all civilizations could embody to exchange experience and knowledge. For this, many owners of the fourth or fifth level of consciousness needed to lower their vibration level in order to get into the space. That is how representatives of different civilizations could get the necessary communication experience. In addition, in the galaxy there already existed many three-dimensional civilizations that had something to share with the rest, because each civilization is unique in its own way, and stores the knowledge needed to unite the entire galaxy. Thus, in all the worlds of the galaxy, the most talented and capable representatives were selected who, having completed their personal tasks at the level of their civilizations, were ready to move on. It was they who were ready to incarnate for a global exchange of experience. Seeing that everything was ready, the teachers gave an impulse to create a three-dimensional world. A powerful impulse was also created in the central sun that changes processes in the entire galaxy, and as a result a system of stars and planets appeared, called the solar ring or the solar system. Of course, it may sound unusual, but it was for such important and global tasks that the world in which you live was created. Each of you is a unique representative of the galaxy, the keeper of the valuable experience gained in other civilizations, who came here in order to share it with the rest. And imagine that all of humanity is a community of spiritual entities that support the entire galaxy through cognition of the reality in which they are located and the improvement of relations with each other. We greatly appreciate and respect you for the wisdom that you already possess, and in many respects even envy the multifaceted experience that you are gaining now. And so that you learn about the opportunities that you possess, we want to tell you how your planet was formed. Of course, the solar system has many planets, and each of them was inhabited at one time by different civilizations. They now have life forms. But over time, the attention of the masters was concentrated on the Earth, because it was possible to create the conditions on it that are the best for the embodiment of all representatives of the galaxy. Your planet was conceived from the very beginning to support the unification process, and all its formation was carefully planned in advance. The creation of the planet was led by Gaia, the essence of the 11th level of consciousness. It still exists on your planet, and is materially connected with its core. To support the education of the planet, she invited many teachers from the 7th level of consciousness and above. They developed spiritual principles, on the basis of which extraterrestrial civilization developed and is now developing. At this very early stage, we, the representatives of Sirius, also came to Earth. According to the instructions of the teachers existing in the field of the planet, we were instructed to start subtle processes in molten magma, from which then the Earth almost completely consisted. After all, this state of matter is most consistent with our world in which we live on the stars. Representatives of Alpha Centauri who were able to influence the flows of matter and energy also helped us in this. Together, we were able to support natural processes in the best way, and bring the planet to the state in which you now know it. We all now live on the planet, and on the subtle plane we support all the natural phenomena that occur on it. The teachers responsible for your planet settled near Gaia, at the level of the outer core, and began to be called the gods of the earth. We remained the support for the masters, and settled there, in the outer core, whose substance is still in a molten state and creates favorable conditions for our lives. That is why this layer of the earth is called Sirian. Representatives of the Alpha Centauri settled on the surface of the earth and support the natural processes occurring on the surface. Therefore, you can call them the spirits of nature. After the formation of the earth at the physical level was completed, the masters invited representatives of all galactic civilizations to Earth. Each of them has created its own form of conscious life on Earth at the 3rd level of consciousness. Each variety was unique in its own way. The capabilities of the physical body and the qualities that they possessed were best suited to the features that they possessed in other worlds of the galaxy. These species are called races of the Earth, and the era in which all races coexisted together is called fabulous, because the memory of it has still been preserved in the depths of your consciousness and is manifested through the myths and legends that your ancestors passed on to you. You have heard of many of them, for example, elves, gnomes, dragons, orcs, watercraft, wizards, and many others. Each of these fabulous races has a connection with some kind of civilization. For example, elves and gnomes have roots from Alpha Centauri, dragons had a connection with Sirius, orcs with Orion. There was already a human race on Earth then, the predecessors of which were the representatives of the Pleiadians and Orion. At first, each of the races developed independently, improving their qualities and abilities. Therefore, they lived apart from each other. Each of them had some amazing, truly fabulous feature in which representatives of this race were unsurpassed masters. For example, elves were strong in creativity, gnomes, in comprehending the laws of nature, wizards, in understanding the subtle plan, orcs, in crafts and agriculture, water, in the ability to enjoy life, and people, in science and technology. At some point, the development of races reached the point where they no longer lacked their own knowledge and capabilities. Therefore, They naturally began to communicate, learning from each other with a lively and passionate interest. A great time began when representatives of all races began to create common settlements in order to get to know each other better. They began to realize that they needed each other, and that the qualities they possessed were valuable for their overall development. Elves held concerts, water ones, holidays and feasts. Gnomes shared their knowledge about nature, people, helped others with their inventions. The joy of communication, the pleasure and inspiration of learning new things, the desire to understand each other and support, these are the emotions that flourished in such settlements. Thanks to such an exchange, each of the races could develop very multifaceted, more and more deeply understanding itself and its capabilities. On a subtle plane, each of them had a close relationship with its galactic civilization, and thanks to this, its representatives could recognize the features of other civilizations. This was the highest goal and value of such an exchange. The vibrations and energies that existed then on Earth echoed throughout the worlds of the galaxy, and gave impetus to their development. Due to favorable changes, galactic civilizations increased their vibrations, and, in turn, energetically supported their representatives on Earth. This significantly increased the frequencies in which all the inhabitants of the Earth were, and at some point their consciousness already corresponded to the fourth level. All this reinforced the general resonance of existences in the galaxy, and contributed to the course of the unification process. Earth civilization developed very quickly, and it was necessary to create a common management system that could support overall development. To this end, the Galactic Council sent to Earth the Arcturians and representatives of Orion, in whose civilizations then control systems already existed. But the difficulty turned out to be that both of these approaches were very different from each other, and, at the same time, were not suitable for terrestrial civilization. Other civilizations did not have sufficient management experience. Arcturians and Orions could influence the situation on Earth through representatives of their races, while other civilizations remained on the sidelines. Due to such an uneven effect on life on Earth, the balance between races was lost. A misunderstanding arose between its representatives. All this has led to the fact that now most of the races on Earth again exist separately, at the level of different energy waves, and therefore practically dwells in their own separate worlds. All this led to the fact that for some time the vibrations on Earth again decreased, stopping at the level of the third level of consciousness. This happened about 1 million years ago. The situation exists now, and, on the one hand, this was a step backward for the Earth and the entire galaxy, but it was quite natural. The fact is that the teachers saw the unpreparedness for the unification of the civilizations of the galaxy among themselves, and this was due to the lack of knowledge needed to create a common management system that could unite them all. Therefore, for some time, all the civilizations of the galaxy developed separately, having one common task: to find new opportunities in management. Over the past 1 million years, almost all civilizations of the galaxy have gained new experience in building their own control system. In this, people and some other races of the Earth have perfected themselves, gaining the necessary experience for re-rapprochement. All these preparations were made not by accident. The fact is that at the level of the entire universe a powerful energy impulse has now been created that amplifies high frequencies. It was transmitted to our galaxy through the central sun and the entire energy system of the galaxy. We launch activating processes that recreate the resonance that then manifested between all civilizations. An energy impulse has also been transmitted to the Earth, increasing its vibrations, which we talked about in a previous article. Thanks to him, processes have been launched in the bowels of the planet that after some time will restore balance at the level of the races of the Earth. High vibrations, gradually activating your consciousness, help you remember the experience that you gained on Earth in the fairy tale era, as well as in other civilizations. High vibrations also open up opportunities for you to interact with the subtle plan, and many of you already see the result. It is on a fine level that at first there will be interaction with other races and civilizations, but with a further increase in vibrations, more and more opportunities for contact and exchange of valuable experience will come off. Gradually, your planet will again become the center that supports the entire galaxy. We value and love each of you for the knowledge and wisdom that you keep in yourself, for the skill that you have shown in many of your lives, for the desire to share your abilities with others, for your interest in everything new and the need to increase your vibrations that drives you. We thank you for the path that you have already walked on Earth, and are happy to support you and all the other inhabitants of the planet in the amazing and wonderful process of your rapprochement. Later we will tell you much more that can support you on the path of increasing the vibrations of each of you with love and respect for you, the representatives of Sirius on Earth.